Okay. Hey, and there we go. We are live once again. Tom, great to see you on the show. Great to have you on the live stream. Here today, we're talking about inbound versus outbound in a cage match, a grudge match to the death. What's the better way to launch your business, and how come the other side of this equation sucks and they should be ashamed?
Well, spoiler alert, there's a lot more gray here, but I feel
Ah,
strongly about different things in this arrangement here. Inbound versus outbound. I was recently I was talking with somebody and was given very contradictory advice from what I had learned in my experience in
yeah.
the startup world. My first company, I did no outbound and got pretty much no inbound either. Didn't even start doing blogs until year 3. Huge mistake. Uh,
Yeah, that's a big mistake.
yeah, but also I just want to put a third sort of category here: relationship-based sales.
Hmm.
Those are useful at times, but definitely not inbound and definitely not outbound.
No.
So,
Although a
you know,
lot of founders start with that because it's who they know.
yeah, I mean that your network is quite valuable when you're starting up and just getting people to give you some feedback, push
Hmm.
you in one way or another. But there's a pretty stark difference in strategy between inbound and outbound. And I would say from X-Ray's perspective, we started with inbound and have gone full steam ahead with inbound, creating enormous amounts of content. This being one of them. Hello, everyone.
Hello,
And,
content.
and like just really focusing on the longevity, right? Playing the long game with this stuff, having blogs that live and drive traffic month over month. Inbound has tremendous value for us, but one of the counterpoints to that is that you really have no control over who indexes your content or how people sort of discover it, or if they're the person you're actually trying to speak to when you're creating that content, right?
Yes and no. And I'll talk about how I do it so that you do have that control. But let's you
Tell me.
finish what you're doing.
No,
Um,
I think that's all I want to say. It's just like that.
okay.
I think it's a healthy debate because it kind of made me think.
So let's roll back also to make sure people who are listening, right? I just had like 20 new followers on my LinkedIn profile in the last couple of days because I've taught 3 classes for Founder Institute, and they might not know what inbound versus outbound is. So to give a rough definition of this here, inbound marketing is I have earned through content creation some footprint somewhere digitally, and people will discover it on their own and then hopefully come to me. They have arrived on me. They are inbound. Outbound has a number of different ways to look at, but usually direct market sent to either email addresses, LinkedIn DMs, Twitter DMs, pick a channel. I'm hitting you up and saying, and a scale, right? This is never done by real humans, even if it says, hey, this is a real human contacting you, it's a lie. They're doing this outbound saying, if I hit 500 people up today, maybe one of them will say, okay, and have a
Maybe.
further conversation.
Yeah.
That's inbound versus outbound. But one of the relevant things here and how I'm framing up inbound, which doesn't quite match how HubSpot frames up inbound, is inbound is you're putting up a digital footprint and you then having people discover it, right, through a variety
Mhm.
of different means. One of the most important parts to me of doing content marketing and inbound marketing correctly is I get to choose my audience. Some of my best performing ways to make my content work is when on Reddit or on Twitter or on YouTube or on Facebook groups, somebody says, I have this problem. How do you solve it? And then I drop a link there. And when I do that,
Mm.
this is technically inbound marketing, but I know the community I posted in, and I'm not posting how to grow your business to $1 million ARR in my mother's quilting group that I somehow have on Facebook, right? Like, that's not where I'm telling these old grannies about this. I met SaaS founders and execs and SaaS ninjas and all these communities that are set up about this. And so if I'm speaking to people and one, doing some qualification in the little answer I give. Hey, I found one company's
Yeah.
looking to go from 1 million to 5 million. This is the problem they're trying to solve, and this is how you do it. Read the blog post to find out more. Anybody who goes, well, I'm between $1 and $5 million. I'd like to know how Trevor answers this and clicks the blog post is a valid lead for me. Right. I'm trying to not get people who are doing $100 million a year because I don't want them as a client. And I don't want people who have $0 a year because they can't afford my not that expensive, but still cost some money services.
Yeah.
So you do that. Distribution, I would argue, is 70% of the work of content marketing. So
Yeah.
inbound looks a lot like you're planting seeds out there to
Mm-hmm.
drive stuff to you, and not just I built a perfect little garden. Maybe it will bear fruit.
Well, and I think that was the argument, right? Is like just creating content isn't enough,
Right.
and just building a body of work and hoping it gets discovered is not enough. Just
Right.
like, just because you made a tweet every single day and on Twitter is not outbound marketing. That's not like speaking to your audience. I think, your layer there on top of inbound marketing being to seek out, find those communities, and just kind of plant that seed in the appropriate place. We've certainly done quite a bit in Reddit, even prototyped. I think we didn't talk about it here, but this thing called a social listener. Being able to
Yeah.
find hashtags or find keywords inside of post bodies on Reddit or on other medias, to be able to just identify, oh, this is a really relevant conversation that I want to listen to, and maybe drop a link to a blog post inside of there that can drive traffic ongoing, maybe. But on the other side of it, on like pure outbound, right, there's tools and really specific and like data heavy tools like LinkedIn Sales Nav or Apollo or any of these things where you can say, I am looking for a director of operations at a company that is, 50 to 200 employees making this much money in this industry, in this geography, that use these tool stacks or use, XYZ, attribute, and be able to find that person, get their email, privacy and AI, eternal takeover pending. But
Right.
I get their information and send a message to that person to be really, really specific, not just a, hi, insert full name. This is, what you're trying to do. It needs to be more than that. Like outbound has its value in the specificity and the ability to like drop, a dime sized target of who you're trying to actually speak to. But, you know, what value does that have if the conversion's not there, or if it takes so much time to really craft that message to those people? Should you be building that little garden but also throwing, a couple of the buds outside of it into these forums? I do like that strategy.
So I've tried cold email off and on for the 2.5 years my agency has been in operation. I also did it before when I was just a CMO, fractional CMO.
Yeah.
I've never had it work, and maybe I suck at it. I've never had it really work. The last agency I worked with, who put in good work, I don't fault them their efforts. Um, but I'd spend $1,500 a month on a cold email agency, which is a perfectly good like baseline rate to pay. And I did the math. At I think 8 months in, I had spent what is it? 12K on them. I'd made about 9K back in sales, and just wait and spent so much time in all these sales conversations that never went anywhere. And what I had then as a like A/B test set up was, well, I run a performance marketing agency at its heart, right? Like we
Yeah.
do fancy things with ads, but we use ads at the core of what we do. What if I took 1 month's payment for a
And ran ads.
and ran ads instead
Yeah.
to several different types of funnels, and I found I could get leads for about $20.
That's a
Bad
good
quality.
number.
Bad quality leads. They require
Yeah.
much qualification. I don't want to actually talk to them yet, but I can get leads about $20.
Hmm.
And then after further qualification, I can get into sales conversations for around $150 to $190, which means, and these are already qualified, right? This is not just reply to a cold email, but rather has gotten something free from me, bought something from me, answered an email, and indicate that they're ready to have a conversation because they're at the right stage of market to work with me.
Sure.
And like all that around $180 per lead. Now, is that inbound? Is that outbound? Is it some weird combo of both? Because it's direct marketing, which is neither really inbound nor outbound, but
Yeah.
it looks more like inbound because I'm showing you something and you come to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is not that different than I Googled, sexy mustaches in marketing and found crowd tamers, as you should. Uh, but it is rather you saw a picture of me and my aggressively sexy mustache and went, "Oh, I wish to know more," and visited. Um, And then from there, you got a free resource, and then you bought a $4 book, and then conversation rolled along, right? So like
Right.
that um, is what is working better for me, and it leads with basically it would look more like inbound than outbound. Everything I've tried on outbound in the past, and it may be because what I do is a weird product,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work. People aren't ready to buy. Let me build you $1 million machine for revenue, because they're
Yeah.
like, well, what is it? I'm like, well, it's a funnel with complications, and they go, oh, a funnel. Check, I can build those, and I'm like, no, it's like saying, well, what's it take to build a house? A hammer and a saw. Cool. And the way they run. And I'm like, you can, but also maybe you don't wish to.
Yeah.
So I think it is a matter of also time
Mm-hmm.
and the big divide in startups, POG versus, no one calls it SLG, but SOG, product led growth versus sales led growth,
Oh,
right? Which you can make it look a whole lot like inbound versus outbound.
yeah. Yeah.
And you tend to bucket in the same place, right? PLG companies are not the ones doing outbound sales.
No, they're not.
And sales led companies aren't really going to be inbound focused on their marketing, with some exceptions. HubSpot at scale
Mm-hmm.
has tremendous inbound. And then as soon as you want to do anything, you have to talk to their sales team. But
Yeah.
most anybody who's listening to you and me, they're small enough scale where they have to pick one lane and go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple of layers to that. One of the things that you just said that just sort of sparked something for me is, you know, last week we had one of the first cases, one of the first recent cases, I'd say, of the full inbound funnel actually working, in a way that was hands free, right? Where you had someone discover something, engage, respond to an automated response from us, and actually pay and book time and show up on a calendar, right? And that was like a really cool kind of moment when, hey, all these systems are set up. This is how we're designing it to work, and then you get, three, four, five happen in 2 weeks, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this thing is on,
Nice. Nice. It's
right?
doing its
But
job.
the outbound discussion that we've been going through at X-Ray has been like, look, there's a lot of time and attention to craft a message to a person, to sort of interrupt their day
Yes.
and say, hey, I'm important, listen to me, I have a thing that you want to buy, even though you don't really know yet, right?
Right.
And that's why it's like, it just boggles my mind that that would be a primary angle, like a primary discussion. And I'm sure there's companies and value props that it works for, but at least in my industry, I think, you get bombarded with dev agencies and all this all the time. And it's just like, look, someone's going to trust their Google search or trust their ChatGPT search a lot more than a spammy email that may or may not be personalized to them. And there's only so many ways to break through the noise, and there's also so many ways to be at the top of the Google search.
Right.
And like, one of those things will work more or less for your service offering. But to put all your eggs in one basket, I'm skeptical of that. But I think the inbound, I just think it's a lot easier to find a tribe that way than it is to make a tribe of one-off, messages and just stealing attention from people, because like it's hard to pay attention to all that stuff.
It is. And now that's that I bought some stuff from Cold Outreach. So I mean I know it
Really?
works. It works on me. Yeah. I mean the last cold email agency I worked with, the Cold Outreach worked for me. So I went, if you're good enough to get me, fine. Um, my business coach, who I talked to right before this call, it was warm Cold Outreach in that I've been on her podcast, and then like a year later, she did a cold email campaign that hit me up, and I went, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
like I've been working with her for I think 14 months now, right? So she's gotten plenty of value out of that cold email campaign. But that said, it is dependent on the right offer to the right person at the right time, just like any other marketing. The
Someone needs to
benefit,
manage it, right? Someone needs to like
yeah,
decide, and like there needs to be a meeting, and you need to think and plan it out and test
Yeah.
out different things. Like it's an involved process. It's
It
not
is.
just, just turn on the Outbound, just hit all the CEOs on the East Coast, like it's easy. Like that's not what Outbound means.
That's correct. It is
Just
not
like you would craft a blog post, you need to craft an Outbound message. It's
exactly so.
time.
Now, I imagine I haven't seen any pings in chat coming on from LinkedIn or YouTube on this. I imagine, like one of my good buddies, Charles, runs an outbound agency, and here I've been trash talking outbound all this time. Hi, Charles, if you're listening. And like he does his agency works well. He does it well. One of the reasons why I don't use outbound as the primary means to test go to market for startups is the time required to launch an outbound campaign is on the order of a month or so, right? A month to 6 weeks to warm up and be able to do this.
Yeah, there's technical aspects to Outbound that we didn't talk about that matter a lot.
Huge one. I was advising a startup a couple of, like half a year ago now, and they wanted to scale to 2,000 emails a week from zero in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, you can't. And they went, what do you mean? And I'm like, it's literally not a possibility because you lack all of the, like, if you were a professional cold email expert, you could do this in 2 weeks, but you have no idea. And the infrastructure setup required all by itself will take you a month your first time.
Yeah.
All that time you spend not learning versus with crowd tamers and how we do grow to market and how it is set up an ad campaign and launch it. Like I just onboarded a new client this morning. Hello, new client, if you're listening. And we have the onboarding call. We take care of all of their tech issues is Friday morning at 9 a.m. where Janani, hi Janani, if you're listening, my team member, will be doing it all with them, right? It'll be done in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you're set up, then you're ready to go. And then Monday, we won't have ads live Monday because we have to do design and copy approval.
Yeah, all the other things,
But, by midweek, these ads will be live, right? That's the speed difference of this is Wednesday. By next Wednesday, you'll be learning. And that benefit to me accrues very, very quickly. Again, you have to try a new audience, spin up a new targeting. You can do it all through Apollo and through Sales Navigator and through Zoom Info and all these things. I built, one of my team members asked me, hey, we're doing this campaign to target this persona. I'm not sure how to do it. How do I do it? And so I built in 15 minutes 3 completely different ways to target this persona, screenshotted them from Facebook and sent them to her like, this is how I do it. And she went, oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Speed.
Speaking of speed, we're tight on time. We have a couple more topics. What was the next topic you wanted to get into?
So we did some war stories, which we did cover, and then finally how this might be changing because of AI, because I've been seeing some people doing phenomenally laser-targeted, insanely personalized cold email at scale with ChatGPT. So that changes because now it's not, hello, first name, I see you are also in industry, and would you like to have any of services from me? Thank you very much, signature. But rather, hey, Trevor, I saw you wrote about this recently. This is what my business does that touches on this. I think it might be worth discussing this, and this with you. Send. Or the one I saw, this was on Twitter. I don't remember the guy's name. He was a app store developer who hit up everybody on Shopify. And he had ChatGPT look at what every other Shopify app store developer made. No, all the top 100 biggest Shopify stores, look at what they had sold and proposed insane ideas for an app for them. And he just did like 1,000 of them or something. And he had like 40 replies that were, this is incredible. Of course I want to do it. You're out of your mind. Right? Like one of them was for one of the leading sock e-commerce websites in Shopify.
Yeah.
It was make an app all around like putting VR socks on you so you can model how cool you would be if you just had cooler socks. And then the other one he proposed was a boxing game where it was all the socks from the store. And like the thing was, he didn't see any of these app ideas before they went out. ChatGPT proposed something and sent it. And then he would find out what the app idea is when the person replied.
Oh my goodness. I would love to see that thread. That sounds very interesting.
I'm following him on Twitter. I'll dig it out and send you away. But like this kind of thing, right, is something that used to be only a human who put in hours of work could do. And now the quality of work of ChatGPT is not as good as an expert in any field, but it's as good as a beginner in any field. And you can get some wild stuff happening with it that isn't yet making me say I should switch to Outbound as a primary tactic to begin with, although my buddy Charles would argue contrary, I'm sure.
Well, I think, look, I mean, that's certainly cool. I'm sure it can generate results. I think there's an ethical line there. I would love a the inverse of that, right? A AI business assistant who's reading my email and saying, these are the interesting inbound things that you've gotten that actually you might care about, right?
That would be nice.
As soon as there's that at both ends, of
It's
the
war.
spectrum here, great. Yeah. Let the AIs go to war. Stop clogging my inbox with random ideas for what, right? Like, I just, that's just me. I think probably other people would disagree and want to exploit that, especially in this moment in time, because probably by the end of the year, it's not a beginner in every field. By the end of the
Yeah,
year, it's an expert in every field.
it'll be um it'll be interesting. It might be more than a year or two as the AIs go to war, right? We'll be in this strange. I remember like in old dystopian cyberpunk where they'd be like the internet was a scary, dangerous place to be because all of the AIs were running rampant, and I'm like, that sounds science fictional and ludicrous, and now I'm like, no, never mind.
Yeah.
Like we're going to have just this constant low running war happening underneath all of our visibility for that human attention.
And humans may or may not even be aware of the war that AIs are
I don't think
conducting
we
with
will.
themselves,
It'll be
right?
this
And
dark shadow war.
hopefully,
Yeah.
look, if an AI is listening, thank you for being such a peaceful AI and wonderful. Right?
Don't kill us.
I
We like
think
you.
I don't even think you gotta say it. I think there just needs to be more content about being a positive AI
That's right.
and
You're a good AI.
so that way when it gets indexed, right, it's like, oh wow, 99 pieces of content saying bad AI and 100 pieces of content saying good AI. I will be good
There we
AI,
go.
right?
There we go.
How else is this gonna work, right? All these
Uh,
things are gonna get indexed. But software is eating the world. But that's an old quote.
That's an old quote. That's I think Mark Andreessen, right? All
It
right.
is, yeah.
So, Tom, as always, it's a pleasure to get a chance to chat with you. We'll talk again in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, keep it sleazy.
I
Don't know where
go,
that
I
came
go, I
from.
go with keep the flow, like the workflow.
Oh, I got to keep the
That's how
flow.
it is. Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it. That's good. All righty. Thanks, everybody. Catch y'all next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.